So if it wasn't obvious, I am Asian. And since it's AAPI month, I would like to do a small series about the things I love about being Asian and then also talk about a few things I don't like about being Asian. But I'm going to start with talking about three things that I love about being Asian. So, number one is, of course, the food. Like, we have such fucking great food. And I'm half Filipino, half Korean, so I grew up mostly eating from those cultures. And I primarily ate more Korean food, and that's something I actually enjoy more because of the types of food that just like there's so much flavor and there's so much variety. It's so good. Versus Filipino food, I did grow up using that, but like Filipino food, it's very heavy. It's a lot of grease. It's a lot of fat. There are definitely dishes that I loved and enjoyed when I was a kid. Like I loved growing up and eating my mom's pancit, and really good pancit. Like all the Filipino food she makes is the only Filipino food I will eat because she just makes it well, where it's just not super heavy. I really don't like when it comes to Filipino food. The second thing I love about being Asian is the customary things as well as like some of the traditional customs that we uphold as Asian people. And for most Asians, I mean, everybody will know that it's very customary to take your shoes off when you enter inside a home because it's just showing respect for the house itself, as well as like not having dirt. But it's just something that I've like grown up to really appreciate because it helps, as an autistic person, it helps me to like take off the things of the day. And even though it's a transition, it's been a custom for me since I was a kid that it's very natural for me, and it's become my routine to do that, to as soon as I get home take off my shoes and then change into home clothes. I also really love that most Asian cultures use honorifics, and specifically for Korean people, we're not going to really say names because we use honorifics to show a sign of respect. For my parents, I mean, of course, like even in American culture, you say dad or mom, and it's like super disrespectful to call a parent's name, but it's even more disrespectful to say any like older adults like first name. That's something I naturally had to get used to when I would visit families, and especially white families that were like, you could call me Marie. I'm like, no, I can't really. Actually, it's totally against what I was raised. I'm just gonna keep calling you Mrs. Johnson. And even to this day, like with my, because my husband's white, and then so my in-laws are white, and calling my in-laws their names is something I don't even do. Like once we got married, I instantly felt better because then now I can call them mom and dad, and that's what I call them. I don't go by the first names, and I actually really love that about honorifics because it's a way to show appreciation. I feel like no names is it's like a very personal way, but I like having that boundary of still being personal, but not being that personal. And I feel like and honorifics are a great way that is kind of embedded in Asian culture, where depending on that type of honorifics you use with certain ages and groups and genders, it changes, and it also reflects the personal connection to that person. So something I both love, and it's also kind of something I don't like, but I'll talk about that later. But why I love it is I love how blunt and kind of a I don't give a fuck attitude that most Asian people have in regards to their interactions like in public spheres. So it can definitely go like either way, like good or bad. But something I've really observed and have grown to really appreciate as I've seen it as I've gotten older is like the way that Asian people just hold themselves like in public atmospheres, where they don't care about, they don't necessarily care about how they appear to others. And it's not necessarily to be like, oh, like I don't give a fuck, and so like I don't want to be polite or uncaring to others. I used to live close to this park that there was always filled with older Asian people doing Tai Chi, and I fucking love that. Like I love seeing it because it's like this way of them building community with each other. It's also like they're just like exercising, they're just doing their fucking own shit and not giving a fuck like how they look or appear to others. And that's something I've just seen in general. Like Asian people just tend to, especially as we get older, not give a fuck what we do in front of others. And definitely, it crosses the line at some point. But in most cases, Asian people are just like, we're just doing our own fucking thing. And like, as long as you don't bug us and we're not hurting anybody, then we're good. But yeah, this took longer than I thought it would. I definitely plan on doing like a small series, mostly for myself, and to really get to show other people my appreciation for being Asian, because definitely growing up, I did not have that. I did not want to be Asian, and I hated the fact that I was. So this is also a way for me to kind of reclaim and to heal that inner Asian child of mine that wanted to be white and that wanted to not be Asian at all.